Welcome to Repair University, and as we continue our estimating series, we're here today to talk about having an inspection routine. So if you've had your pre-inspection routine and gotten all your information together, interviewed your customer, know anything that you need to know about the facts of the loss, who was in the car, how many occupants, what were the road conditions, etc., well, now you're ready to go to the car and get started. Now, don't forget to take your estimating system with you. This isn't something that we're going to do on pen and paper and just grab our camera. Having the knowledge and the information with you at hand as you're writing it is going to be critical. So grab that laptop, grab that tablet if you're using the new Auto Explore system, and head on out to the car. Now, Larry, one of the first things we always tell people to do when they get there is a complete walk around of the vehicle. What are we looking for?
You want to take a look at the vehicle. You want to see what what you have to deal with. You want to look at the damages that are there on the car. You want to look at the opposite side damages. Just walk around the car, get familiarized with what am I looking at here.
All right. Now, if the customer's there with you, I hate it when I see it and I go into shops or I go into the drive-ins with some of our insurance clients, and they always leave that customer sitting in the lobby with very little interaction with them. If you're going to do that 360 walk around, you don't want the customer out there the whole time that you're writing the estimate, but that's a great time to get them involved. And the more involved they feel like they are in the process, the more invested they're going to be in you, your repair facility, or you as the insurance company. So take them along on that 360 walk. Now, once we've got our walk, it's time to start entering our information. So that's when it comes in handy that I've actually brought my computer with me to the car. What are some things that we want to get entered into the estimating system before we even start writing our first line of damage?
Depending on how the shop actually runs, sometimes the CSR, the customer service representative, will take the driver's license, the registration, insurance company information, put it in the database, you go outside and some of that information's there already. But if it's not, then obviously you're going to put it in. But starting from that point on, you want to get the mileage of the car, you want to verify the VIN, you want to also check the production date, get color trim. In some cases you actually need paint codes. Obviously they're all over the place on cars nowadays. They can be in the trunk, could be in the glove box. You want to get that information in there. You want to find out sometimes, I like to find out how much fuel is in the car. Mileage in, mileage out, sometimes required by certain states as a final bill, so I want to have my mileage correct. I want to see if there's any check engine lights or malfunction indicator lamps on the dashboard, indicating that there's probably a diagnostic trouble code somewhere along the line, especially for the airbag light, the SRS system. I want to know if something's on there or not, so I know, hey, wait, why is the airbag light on? It's a light hit, probably the seat has to be reweighed. Or did something deploy? I need to check that.
Right. Now, getting all that information is critical for a lot of reasons. If you are a DRP, one important thing for you to know is that the information that you gather on the estimate goes into the database for that insurer for lots of different reasons, including the actuarial process of setting premiums. So even though you think that you might just have a scratch on a bumper and knowing that it's got leather seats or heated seats or any of that isn't important, it's very important, and it's important every time. In addition, what Larry talked about, it's going to let us know a lot of times what parts to order. As the estimating system begins to filter out certain things by production date or options or models, you're going to make sure that you're getting the best parts all the time. And if you have the Auto Explore system in your shop, you're going to get the VIN code. It's going to take you right to what the build sheet was from the factory, so it's going to save a lot of time there, which is great. Let's talk about the principles of estimating. So it's one of the lost, I like to say, the lost great knowledge areas of our industry. But there's just some basic principles that you should know when you approach a car. Let's go over those really quickly.
Well, like we said earlier, you want to check with the OEM their repair information either through a database provider or an outside source, or from the actual manufacturer themselves. Just get a little familiarized with this particular car. Obviously, the more exotic the car, the crazier it's going to be. But you want to know what the substrates are. You want to know, what the materials are actually on this car. It can make a big difference. A 2-hour dent on a mild steel panel versus a high-strength steel panel versus an aluminum panel are 3 different types of times. It could be 2 hours on one door that's mild steel. Might be 2.5, 3.5 hours on a high-strength steel door, and it may be unrepairable on an aluminum substrate vehicle. So these are the things you need to know. Most aluminum vehicle makers don't allow any pulling of their vehicles structurally, so that kind of like rules that out. On the steel substrate vehicles, a lot of the B pillars are not allowed to be pulled, and any movement of them requires replacement of the B pillar because of the substrate it's made from, which is generally a martensite or a boron alloyed steel component, which they don't want you to pull because you can do damage to whatever it attaches to. So if I have a Chevy Impala, which has a boron alloyed steel or martensite pillar in it, and the doors don't line up, and I take a couple of quick measurements, and I find out the B pillar is pushed in. I can see some wrinkling at the rocker panel. I can see some wrinkling up at the top of the B pillar. And normally, 10 years ago, that was pull that pillar, hammer and dolly, put 2 new doors or 2 used doors on there, and get the car out, paint the side of the car. Now it's a major structural repair. I have to cut that B pillar out. I cannot pull it. So that's important for the estimators to understand the substrates, what the car is made of, and what the different components are on that vehicle.
Right. One of the other things that I find helpful is kind of understanding the physics of an accident. So when we talk about starting at opposite corners and last damage in is the first damage out, what are some of the things that the estimator is going to notice if they adopt those principles?
Well, this goes back to what I said earlier about being a power engineer. You got to understand applied forces to a vehicle and what the car's meant to do. In most cases, I've kind of categorized it in a way to say, hey, look, just all vehicles are meant to do this in a way, generally. The first few inches is meant to crush. The next few inches is meant to slow the applied force down. The next few inches after that in the front of the car is meant to start transferring that energy someplace else in the vehicle. And that goes with the side of the vehicle or the back of the vehicle. So obviously you want to keep that passenger compartment stiff. If I apply enough force to the front, it's going to transfer around the center cage of the car, and it's going to cause the back of the car, object in motion is going to keep in motion, to move. And that's why a lot of times you'll see a car hit in the front and the rear suspension's out of alignment because suspension parts have bent, especially on like a 4-link suspension system. So this is important to understand applied forces, what the vehicle's meant to do. I try and teach in my classes that I teach and try and tell guys all the time, watch crash videos. But don't watch the first, from the driver forward. Don't watch that area. I want you to watch the back of the car. Watch how the car flexes. Watch how the rear suspension moves. Sometimes you see these crash videos at 30 miles an hour. The rear wheel comes forward and actually crushes the rear portion of the rocker panel and buckles it. The quarter wobbles around. This is this is what the car experiences in a collision event. And this is important to understand that when you're an estimator or damage assessor to go out and look at this on a vehicle and say, look, I know the car's hit in the front. Let me start where I don't anticipate damage to be to ensure there is nothing there.
Right, and having a process like that on your inspection routine, opposite corner or rear to forward, depending on going on the damage, it's going to ensure that you don't miss anything. And we always know that when we miss damage and we call customers for supplements, we lose a little bit of authority, we lose some credibility, and we lose their trust. And we don't want to do that when it was something that just by starting the inspection properly in the first place, well, we could have prevented. Now, once I start writing my line items, which we're going to get into some more details through other episodes for front, side, and rear impact collisions, but let's just start with some generalizations of estimating about, as I start to write that line of estimate, what are some benefits to not leaving a panel till you're done with it?
Well, the idea is to keep within the family. If I'm starting with the bumper cover or the bumper assembly, you're going to start with the bumper fascia, and the most furthest thing out on the car is usually, in most states, is 2 license plates. So the first thing I got to do is take off the license plate. Do I have to drill holes in the new license plate, on the new bumper fascia to put on the license plate? Do I have to replace the license plate bracket? So you start with the license plate. Then obviously you would move into the bumper fascia. Am I repairing it, replacing it? The bumper fascia, does it have a molding on it that's, non-serviceable? A lot of the Lexuses years ago used to always have that, I'm fixing the bumper, but I got to pull out that molding, and the molding was glued on. It took a lot of time to get the glue out, but I couldn't re-glue it or retape it. So do I need a molding? After that, I would then take a look at the bumper absorber, bumper reinforcement. If I take off the bumper reinforcement, I got to replace the hardware usually. So you want to stay within that family. After I answer all those questions, then I review that little section, and then I go on from there. If I feel I have notes, I usually recommend have a piece of paper or even a little notepad on your computer screen and write a little Post-it note, because Microsoft gives you that little Post-it note. Put a little Post-it note, check this, and then I can check with the manufacturer if I don't have access on that laptop or tablet at that particular point in time. So then I move on to my next section, maybe the lower rails or the rad core support.
Now, talking about not leaving a part until you're finished with everything in that family or grouping is a great time for us to talk about lists. Now, it's been a pet peeve of mine for years, ever since I started training estimators, I think in like 1997, but I really don't like lists. And I know that a lot of people come up with them. Now, when I say list, it's things like bag car, cover car, color sand and buff, or hazardous waste disposal, all the little things that you think of extra that you want to add to the estimate at the end of it. And what that can sometimes do is you end up adding things sometimes twice because it may have been part of another operation, or you add things that you don't need. And in some states, that can get you in trouble as part of a fraud. So when you're doing the estimate and never leaving the family group, that's a great time to add those items, right?
I don't care how the estimating system, puts out or prints out the estimate. In some cases, one company, you put it at line 24, it shows up at the end of the estimate. Another company, you write it at line 24, it stays at line 24. That's the important time to put it there. My opinion is if we're doing the front bumper fascia, I would put flex additive there, not at the end of the estimate. If I need smaller flex additive later on, I can add a percentage of that for maybe a molding, a door handle, or a mirror assembly. If I'm doing two bumper covers, front and rear, let's say, I would put one flex additive in the front and a second one at the back end of it in the rear bumper section, so that I can actually say where this stuff is. If I need two door adhesive tubes, tubes for putting door skins on, I'm going to go ahead and put one in each section there. Even though it might put it at the end of the estimate, at least I can verify one's for each door. The wish list, as some people have called it, or the necessary list, or the required additional procedures, however you want to look at it, has to really be looked at, because I see a lot of double dipping, triple dipping of it. I see guys that have their old list of color tint. I see they'll even take mine or Mike Anderson's stuff of, color mix and match spray out card. So they'll put down color tint, and 3 or 4 lines later on, or 10 lines down at the end of the estimate, they'll put color mix and match sprayer card. So now you actually double dipped. I've seen mask vehicle for refinishing and then mask beyond 36 inches. Well, wait a second, you got a car cover and then you have mask beyond 36 inches. So you have to really make up your mind which one you're utilizing. Both are correct, but are you masking the whole car, or are you just masking beyond, or are you car covering the car? Could there be more than one car cover? Yes, there could be, but you have to be able to prove each one. You just can't indiscriminately just start clicking on things. I've seen insurance companies make mistakes, put corrosion protection on a bumper cover job. And I was like, well, what do you need a bumper cover? What does it need, or I've seen just structural repair and have flex additive. So they get into a rut. They're just clicking things, and obviously everyone's pressured now to make things move faster. Guys are just indiscriminately clicking on things. And I'll be honest, I've seen, good that we have this video coming up, but a lot of estimators nowadays are point and click people on the body shop side, where they're just, they know computer systems and they're just clicking on what they're told they're allowed or what they can do. And that can be a problem where you just start clicking and you get into that rut.
Right, so you clickers, you know who you are, and if you have that shortcut or you've built that macro or whatever, and it's your procedure that at the end of every estimate, you jump over there and you click 10 or 12 things and add them to the estimate, odds are you're going to make a mistake. And getting caught on a mistake maybe at the wrong time during an audit could have long-term detrimental effects to your shop. So there's no shortcuts to estimating, and there's no quick way of doing it. There's only one way, and that's the right way. So make sure that you're covering every item with the car as you're there, and then move on to the next section. You shouldn't get to the end of the estimate and have a lot of things that you feel like you need to add. Now, while we're talking about doing things as you go, well, let's talk about pictures. Because we either don't get enough or we get a lot of bad ones. And we like to talk about telling people, take the pictures as you're writing that group. What are some benefits to pictures?
The pictures will tell a story, and how you tell the story is how you take the pictures. If you want to walk up to a car as you're doing your 360, you want to take your 4 corner pictures, maybe 1 or 2 overviews of where the damage is, and then obviously all your documentation type information off the car, the mileage, the VIN sticker, license plate, any registration stuff, maybe an insurance card. I like to take a picture of the insurance card in the glove box in case I need a policy number later on. But as you go ahead and you start repairing the car in your mind as you write your damage report, you then want to take your pictures as you go. And what's important? A big thing is keep your fingers out of the picture. Try and use some sort of highlighted pen, or put some sort of marker on damaged panels. I don't like putting markers or crayons on undamaged parts because they can scratch the paint if the car isn't clean. Just like you don't want to write on the front of the windshields anymore because of road chips, that stuff can get embedded. Usually you want to put most of the paint companies that you deal with nowadays as a shop owner will have stickers you can put on the side and write all over them, which is really helpful. But you want to take your pictures as you go along. Try not to get yourself in the picture by having a reflection. I know it can be real difficult on dark cars outside in the sunlight. Try and do it in shade. Try and do it on some angles. You know, in a worst case scenario, I'd rather see your arm in a picture with just the camera being held instead of your whole body with the customer or the insurance adjuster both in the picture at the same time. So you want to make sure that the pictures are clear and concise, and you have that point and shoot with the screen on it. Take a look. If you don't like it, take another picture. Mm-hmm. You know, the pictures are on the card. How many pictures you can upload to the insurance company is always based on your agreement with them or what they process for, but you can always store more pictures in your system. So it's always better to have more pictures than not.
Right, and that goes with a lot of claim systems. You can do that where you can put extra pictures in the claim that maybe don't attach to the estimate for whatever you're uploading, but it's always good to have a lot of pictures. Now, when we teach you in estimating, we teach you that the estimate must stand alone, regardless of any extra testimony that you would be asked to give in a court of law or an additional inspection. Your estimate has to serve on its own to give a roadmap of the repair, and pictures play a vital role in that. If you're one of those people that's snapping pictures before you write your first line, or if you're a picture snapper after you've written your last line, you're missing something. You're not telling the full story of it. And ideally, I should be able to look at your pictures and write an estimate without you even being there if you're telling me the roadmap. So
if you take the pictures correctly, yeah, you should be able to have that. And later on, it can also be used in litigation cases of, I did replace this. So I always tell people, you replace it, during the repair process, you replace a component, take a picture of that component in with the damaged component nearby, even before you remove the sticker. The parts label on there. Take a picture of both of them. It's already proven it's inside the car. You put it in, the damaged ones on the floor. It could help out later on.
Mm-hmm. Now we're going to get into in some future episodes some actual details on estimating, like we said, front, side, and rear damage, where we'll take it a little deeper and teach you how to go over the things for structure, adding all the additional components and some things to consider in the estimate. But this is some great tips to make sure that your inspection process in general improves, that it's thorough, and you're not leaving any damage out. Now we're also going to get into pictures and give you some tips on taking better pictures and documenting what you're doing in the field and in the shop.